Hello YouTube, it's Tony. So today I'll be showing you a pitch can firemaking guide. And so yeah, this update came earlier this week. Now pitch cans can be purchased through the GE, which basically speed up the process of firemaking for making line fires. Yeah, I know it's really nostalgic, so that's why I decided to give a test on the XP rates. Anyways, the location I'm going to be at is in my house. No, I'm not joking, this is actually going to be in my house, as this is the best location for lighting fires in a straight line. So for setting up, you want to build a house portal all the way to the east. So you're going to have to build any room until you reach that spot, and the cheapest room you can build are gardens. Now if you have any existing rooms, don't worry about it, because you don't really need to make any major changes. So once you reach the very east side by building, finally build the garden room, and then build the house portal. Now you're going to remove the existing house portal you have, so that way it teleports you there. Also, when you're finished building the very east side, make sure there aren't any rooms blocking the way, because sometimes you can't set a fire if there's interactive scenery in the way. So in order to do that, just clear up some rooms adjacent to the far east room. So here's my equipment setup. First, I'll start off with Elemental Battle Staff, and this is a new Treasure Trails reward. It basically serves as unlimited elemental runes, and only costed me 2 mil from the GE. It's pretty optional, but otherwise you can just use Augmented Tinderbox if you're training Invention. Then after that I have Large Rune Pouch, and you're going to store Law Runes. Otherwise, if you're not using Elemental Battle Staff, don't forget to store Air and Earth Runes. So finally, I have Ring of Fire and Flame Gloves, which will give me 5% more firemaking XP. Alright, so here's my inventory setup. I have 2 full pitch cans, which costed me 20 mil for each full can. So each pitch can lasts 2000 charges, and this can be refilled by playing the Char Cave minigame. Then after that, you want to bring a lot of noted logs. I'm using U-logs in this case, but I mean you can bring any logs you want. Then finally, I fill the rest of my inventory with unnoted logs of the same kind. So I'm going to talk about setting up the interface. First, you want to drag your action bar, so that way there are 2 columns of slots. Now you're going to keybind the logs all the way on the very top right slot. Afterwards, you're going to move the action bar to the bottom of the screen. The reason being is that on the action bar, you notice that the craft option is the first option, right? And it's not light? Well, the way I'm setting this up is just so you can right click and then left click the action bar. The next thing you're going to keybind is the teleport to house spell. While you're inside your house, you also see the house tab settings, right? You also want to drag that away from the screen because it does cover up the inventory tab. Alright, so in the game settings to the house settings, you're going to do 2 things. Number 1, you're going to toggle off building mode, and number 2, you're going to set your teleport arrival location to house and not portal. Alright, so here's the strategy. You're going to start at your house portal, and then you're going to call the butler. In this case, I'm using a monkey butler, although demon butler does work just fine. When the butler arrives, just use your noted logs on the butler, and select the first option, which is called Unsert. After that, you're going to type in 26, or however many the capacity of your butler is. So yes, the moment your butler goes to the bank, you're going to start setting the line fires. Now for every step you light the fire, you're going to right click and then left click on the action bar to light the logs. With that being said, you're going to have to try to position your mouse cursor accordingly, which should be in the middle of the keybind. Now pretty much this is the hardest part, and the very hardest part. Yeah, you're going to have to time the lighting fire properly. Notice how your character turns in a full circle, right? Usually that happens with the first few logs. You pretty much just gotta time the clicks when you're lighting the fire. If you time this properly, then your character should be walking in a straight line and never turning around. You don't want to spam click the first few logs because some of the logs might end up on the ground, which essentially becomes a waste. Yeah, when your character is in rhythm for lighting the logs, then you should constantly be able to spam click the rest of the logs all the way through. I know this is really hard to explain the mechanism, and I don't think there's even a pattern towards this. Because of that, it would honestly be really helpful if any of you guys know if there's any indicator, basically on how to time the log burning animation. So anyways, when the butler returns, yeah, just keep lighting until you run out. Notice how sometimes he stops following you? Well, if that happens, just click Call Butler from your House Settings tab. He'll start following you again, and then finally left click the butler if he hasn't given you the logs already. That being said, you should be able to light 2 inventories of logs before you hit a dead end on the very west. Basically, your character is going to light the logs from east to west, and so that's why I built the portal very east, so that way it gives you a lot of free space. When both inventories are cleared, you're going to insert the logs to the butler. Afterwards, just teleport back to your house using the spell. At this point, your fire should run out and turn into ashes. Now you're going to have to wait until your butler arrives, and yeah, just keep repeating the same process basically. So the reason why you want to insert your logs after you cleared both inventories before you teleport back is well because the butler is going to meet you at the entrance portal of your house. Otherwise, if you don't send him to the bank, he's going to just stand where he's standing. Yeah, when you basically call him from that position, you're going to have to wait a while since he's going to have to walk all the way east from west. The other alternative solution for that is just teleport out of the house and then teleport back in and call him. Now the moment you receive your logs, just insert another set of noted logs, and that way it prepares you for the next inventory. Yeah, just keep lighting the logs in the line. I mean, sometimes the butler may keep following you, which makes it a little bit easier. The thing about this is that you can receive the logs without actually having to click anywhere. I know this is a little hard to explain, but that's how the strategy works. Again, it can be pretty hard to time the log lighting animation, and even for me, I still misclick a lot. Alright, so here are the comparisons. The Book of Char daily comparison, well, it's slower than Book of Char, but it's still a little bit easier to learn, as well as having no limiting factor. In comparison to Superheat format Jadinkos, it's a little bit faster than that, but I mean Jadinkos are nearly free. Finally, in comparison to bonfiring, well, many people like bonfiring because it's very AFK, although it's actually slower than this method. So in 1 hour, I burned 3,100 U logs. I know I did get rusty at first, but I burned them a little bit faster later on. So here are the XP tables you can get based on the logs you use. With Elder logs, you can get an almost whopping 1.4 mil XP per hour, making this the fastest XP per hour in game for firemaking. Well, conventionally that is. It's also even accessible for skillers or pretty much anyone who doesn't like doing quests. As for Burnie Pet, well, it gives you 3.1k rolls per hour, making this possibly the best way to get Burnie Pet. So yes, do you think this firemaking method's pretty amazing as a whole? Well, to be fair though, it's quite expensive due to the cost of pitch can. Hopefully though, it'll be cheaper when the hype dies down, but yeah, you can also sell your empty pitch cans for an even smaller loss. I'm not actually sure what the price difference it is at this moment. I think you can possibly burn at least 3.8k logs per hour if it's done properly. Either way, I do have a 1 hour footage of me burning logs, and I'll leave that link in the description. So yeah, thanks for watching and I hope it helps. If I missed anything, feel free to ask.